We are here with Deivyspro, and we're going to discuss some symbolic qualities of the of the day and some other stuff too, I'm sure. So his name in Lzwvmmh is rerh. So before we get into the seasonal cards, I'm using the Golden Dawn Magical Tarot. Is there anything particular that you would want to bring up about your current projects or anything like that?
Well, so as I was saying a little bit, was that I was I'm continuing the gatekeeper path, working currently finished working with Belial for 4 months, and I've started Lucifer this January, and working on 3 books. One book on soul travel, so mainly God realization and what I can write about that further down the line, and one book about the gatekeeper path working, and one book would be about initiation and magic in general. So that's like the first book. This would be kind of my works at this point. Getting
so what's your people kind of maybe familiar that I have sort of classified, because the whole 9 gate things, because for me it's rerh, humluk, gunnuit, yabah. So you got your eyes, your ears, your nostrils, your mouth, genitals, and anus, being the 9 traditional gates of in Hinduism. Well, there is no Hinduism, but that's when you hear the reference of the 9 gates. So that breaks down to, you got Lucifer, Vmmh, Lzwvmmh, Raphakel.
Actually, that's interesting, because it's interesting you mentioned the ears, because I was just kind of doing this exorcism of Lucifer out of myself today, just for purificational purposes, and he was kind of stuck in my ear for a long time. Well, so that would be a connection.
I don't mean to interrupt, but we might as well finish the list. So Lucifer, Vmmh, huge Raphakel, Asmodeus, Lzwvmmh. Okay. I'm sorry. Satan, Beelzebub, Baal, Asmodeus, Abaddon, Belial, Azazel. So yeah, that's how that breaks down. But continue. Trying to.
Yeah, it was that as I was exercising him, I noticed a part of his essence did remain in my ear for a longer time, so that there could be a connection definitely between the ears and Lucifer. Yes, I would agree with that. Good.
Yes, it's good of a time, good of a thing to start on. The Golden Dawn had this tradition where you painted 2 of the Temperance card.
Just a second, I'm going to also get my deck as well. Let's see if I should use another one. Yeah, maybe.
But
what's the closest deck that you would
Uh,
say is
the
to
card of
the Golden Dawn deck? I don't have a Golden Dawn deck, but I have the weight, the Rider weight deck. Should I?
it's not per se about only one deck or that sort of thing, but I just got a deck in hand, and so the card of the one of the month cards right now, because of the heliacal rising being the age of Aquarius, that sort of thing. To form a calendar with the cards, that's what I'm doing here. Is the Temperance card. So the Temperance card, there's the Descent and the Ascent card, and the Golden Dawn has you paint one of each. So this is where that comes from. Crowley picked this of the introspection, and but this sort of the object referral, but it's not quite the same thing as left hand path, right hand path. That has it's not even like this. Which one's the other? But you're working with the gate. The demonic gatekeepers would obviously be more on this lines, because this isn't really how you define yoga and tantra, because people say, oh well, yoga, it's like, well, tantra is not really a transgressive path, it's sort of very traditional sort of path. But the the changing of the colors, because as the tarot goes on, you have a story going on. So this is very it's a very sexual card. I mean,
Can you remind me the names of the two cards you have out right now?
Temperance.
Oh,
So
yeah.
art in the Thoth tarot, all that. I mean,
Art. Okay, let me find that one. Check it out. Okay.
but yeah, just talk. Don't worry about finding the card. It's kind of not. You just have gaps on the screen or something like that. But are you just don't remember what card we're talking about, or?
No, I remember the card. Since you told me, but I would like to check it out for myself as well to see what I can see from the actual card. So that should make it a bit more interesting, because it's not just it's not so that it's not just about my own opinions. It's more so about.
Well, that's actually what I'm looking for is your own your own opinions. It's
yeah, but also some divination. So on
well,
temperance, for me,
depends on what you think by
talking about if you're talking about at this time, temperance for me is very specific, because it seems to be in a lack of temperance. That means I have to not only discipline myself, I have to temper my excesses, and it's fitting. I feel Lzwvmmh kicking in, that as we try to bring in the excess through Lzwvmmh, through the pacts with him, and so on. But at the same time, temperance is required, so that we don't get destroyed by our own negative excess that we produce, and by our magic. And what I'm saying is that, of course, we want to strive towards.
What do you mean negative excess? Why would it be a negative excess? Is there?
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is, you can take a thing like pleasure, satisfaction, happiness, and of course, all of these are positive aspects. But the negative excess would be if I'm overindulging myself in foods, or overindulging myself in sleeplessness, something like this. So these things are very specific to me at this time. So temperance, and I can definitely see the correlation as far as how I should temper myself in order to improve, as well as my inside, and as well as my outside. So that's
Well, if you've
very.
seen the Ghoulies movie, remember the Ghoulies movie? I mean, obviously, I can hold up the card as we talk if one wants just looking up the cards. remember the Ghoulies? Have you seen the first Ghoulies movie? About as accurate as a movie scene as far as of Goetia practice as you're going to see, really. But the guy's there, he's yelling out, "Give me your power," and all this, and it's like this is the sort of card that you sort of think of this is that he's just calling up all these powerful feelings, at least in himself, and maybe some other things are joining in him. The
Yes,
dark,
and also that's precisely
the hideous forms that are joining the character, but it's to show off and just to manifest, and it's like it's not that the power is not, it's just not working it. But then again, here we are, a couple tamed forces. So when you're not just being a Karsus trying to empower yourself, as it would be, you're you're actually mixing the forces together and changing.
So that's once again, that's the message to me. It's a very sort of double-edged message, is the fact that yes, I am bound to the demons that I work with, and at the same time, what I need to bind is not the demons, but I need to bind myself so that I better work with said demons. So that's also very specific. And temperance over here is
this is not the form that Crowley and pretty much everybody uses, but this is the other side of the thing. Is
very interesting. If as I look at it, what I'm seeing,
delicate magic. So that this is the problem of being drained. It's like, okay, yeah, maybe you do want to help people and all that. Maybe you do want to connect, but it's not like you sleep at night. You just don't stay up all night doing rituals. Just sleep, get up, and then you can build yourself into something you can do all the time.
And you can do it better, yes. So what I'm seeing in this card is, if you can keep it up a bit for a while longer, is that first of all, this cave, I mean, as far as I'm seeing, she's in a cave, and this cave represents to me the darkness that we enter, in such a pathworking, let's say. And you have the cave, but in the cave, once you enter the cave, once you are in the darkness, we can start to see what's actually in the cave, and we understand that there's light. So once we enter into it, we get an illumination as to how things actually are, and also in that darkness, as we perceive things, they get recreated. I mean, our reality gets recreated. We have a new reality in the darkness. And I'm seeing from the woman, I'm seeing.
Of course, remember what time of year we're at. We're just at, we're into Yule, which we're in the 16th night of Yule. So we are just rising out of the darkness, and.
Oh yeah, and fitting that I should be working with Lucifer at this time, and in looking at the woman, I'm seeing balance. So balance, peace, self-control, and there's a very
the darkness, but it's it's going to come out again.
Yeah, there's a very sort of delicate balance that they're saying. Don't fall off the edge. Be focused. Be centered in yourself, and let the forces pull you where they will. But the discipline, the focus, and the balance is required. So that's what this is telling me. Yeah, definitely.
The general quadrant of the year might as well, might as well focus on trying to get talk about the trumps first.
Yeah.
The universe, pretty typical looking universe there. The Thoth Tarot has more to say, but the job being, there are certain jobs that are complete, but let's face it, there's more to do. There's, we're still here,
Well, this one is definitely interesting. As I'm looking at the card, it's very.
And there's a future after us. There's obviously a future after us. We're in one age. There's going to be other ages.
As I am looking at this, it's very well balanced energetically. I can feel the energy just nicely flowing in this. So what I'm seeing is, interestingly, the woman is kind of whitish. Immediately, I get this sort of association that she is undead or death goddess, vampiric. I could even say Hecate, and you have this dark moon on her head. So of course I would associate the dark moon also also with Lzwvmmh for some reason. That's really kind of how it feels like. And you have, so what I would see is that, hey, you are this being of darkness, which you are becoming through this path, okay? And you are emanating this sort of lunar dark essence that is changing and reconstructing yourself and the world around you. But at the same time, you have established orders. So the world of that which already is, the world of light, and you can see those dots over here. You can see those signs and the animals, and they kind of become limitations which try to encase the darkness. But in
you're above the 30th parallel too. I'm not sure what your latitude or longitude or anything like that is, but you're above 30, right? You're above 30 north, right?
You mean geographically?
Yeah.
I'm
You're
not
above.
really sure, but that could be.
But in this quadrant of the year is the quadrant where there's the higher number of deaths. I mean, not most of the deaths for the year for most areas, but it's certainly a higher portion of the year. So this card kind of reminds somebody, not only is stuff going to go on after you, but be ready to be dead.
Definitely the fact that
death card.
If we're going to look at this as representing the woman as representing myself and a being of darkness, then definitely she is undead or dead, most definitely.
But I mean it's a card that for me far more than the death card reminds that get stuff done, so because then's coming. I mean, not that you pull the card and you're gonna die. Everyone's gonna die.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would like to disagree, but that's the good point. I believe immortality is earned by a specific practice, just like anything else. Sicknesses can be healed, immortality can be attained.
As a soul, you definitely, there's, the body, it does stuff, but you yourself,
But there should be definitely a possibility to keep the body alive as well. Actually, for example, I've started working on this. I've read in the.
Have you seen the two people that are actually sort of verified? One guy lived to be 142, and the other guy 256. Either one of those guys. Are you sure you want to live up as a wrinkled mummy?
No. Of course, the form of
those are the people that have lived over 140, and we have no. There's just no indication that it's.
Of course, the form of immortality I'm referring to is a sort of healthy body immortality. So that wouldn't be an immortality that is also absent of old age. So yeah, that of course is my goal as well. And I can definitely tell you that I have heard about from my own mentor about, let's say, vampires who are not the vampires kind of that we get these days, but they are vampires who can
obviously
actually make
consuming blood does short whether it's not letting the blood drain from the meat or straight up consuming blood by itself. It definitely is a factor of reducing lifespan rather than increasing it. So that thing's there's that issue.
Well, blood as a vehicle for power can increase your let's say your strength, your lifespan, and all this, but the issue would be that it's still too limited, so you can't really use it for immortality. But there are, let's say, vampires, psychic vampires, who of course are better than the ones that we have around usually, who can actually take in enough psychic power to physically restore themselves to an extent that they are young again. So that would be one form of immortality that I would be talking about. Of course, I don't have the technique for that yet, so that's the sad part about that. But yes, the possibilities are definitely there for physical immortality. Another thing I've started working on as to get this is I read that actually Shiva is one of the devas who can grant physical immortality once we do enough, we do enough penance. He appears before us, and we are able to ask for a boon, and he gave this boon to guy called Markandeya, let's say.
One of the things you know about Shiva is that Shiva is, again, one of those very specific ones that is not necessarily personified. If you know anything about advanced Hinduism studies, that's the statues and stuff like that. That's not Shiva. That's just, it's language about Shiva, and very old references show this. It's not like later shifting to monotheism or something like this. This was, it wasn't considered as a separate angel or anything like that, like it commonly is. It's actually something that goes by that. It's like the beneficent is one of the meanings of Shiva.
Yes.
So, but the immortality is definitely something that is passed on to the devotee. But again, immortality of what sort? Because if the body is always transient,
true. But I would definitely believe that if you look at the rishis, let's say, if you look at the ancient Chinese masters and so on. So historically, throughout many cultures, we have had so many references to the physical immortals that there should definitely be some of them. In fact, even my mentor says that we do have techniques to do this, but of course I haven't learned them yet. But once I do, we could definitely discuss something about it, and most definitely, maybe even maybe I could even share it with much larger audiences, so that would be also a beneficial thing to all. But yes, physically as well, there I would say that there's absolutely a possibility to get that. In fact, I would say that it's like exercise, that if you don't exercise, you get let's say you get fat or something like that. So at the same time, okay, we can get on the next card.
So the card of the day of the week, because night into day and all that. Of course, I'm it's going to be a couple days till I post this, but it's after sunset on a Sunday, so just to let the audience know there, and it's 11:11 as I'm pointing this one out. So it's not the best lunar number, but I guess some people would think of it as 9 times 9 times 9. That would be, but you know what I mean. So
the body can definitely be immortalized. Now this card, whoa, to me immediately I'm seeing the yang expression of the other cards, or you could say the positive expression of the other card we just looked at. And but interestingly, what I'm seeing in this one is stasis. That stasis, that means that which already is and is not changing, is the same. And I'm getting the thought that it needs to be, that if there is a stasis that needs to be stopped or ended, then it needs to be destroyed with the brutest force possible. So if you need to kill something within or kill something without, so as to get things moving or burn it down. I'm referring to the use of baneful magic here to kind of get yourself out of various obstacles and so on, within or without. So yeah, kill it all, bring it all down, and through the darkness we get the possibility to transcend that which already is, and to transcend that which is static. So that would be my view on that, most definitely.
Well, the high priestess, this card doesn't make it as clear as a lot of decks do. But you have your everything that just is. That's it's in religion you have three sorts of things. I'll just throw in the Arabic words to get and their meaning, of course. The Zahariya, the Batiniya, and the Wataniya. So you have the exoteric, the esoteric, and the ethnic. And so, I guess maybe I should translate further and say the external, the internal, and the societal or the material culture, or what that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So the differing meanings, and that's yeah, I was talking better and before we started recording, but you know, different
And one other thing that
join
I'm
same thing. A lot. Not most. Maybe not most of the material, but a lot of the material that I have on the channel is stuff that I put forward that people with different intentions, different beliefs can work with or get something from.
yes.
And I mean, I'm not one of these people who say that a bunch of different contradictory things can all be equally good or and true and that sort of thing that doesn't work in the real world. It doesn't work in any other world really. But um, the
The truth, yeah, is kind of specifically
but
beyond
but but
contradiction.
but just the fact that you can do stuff and even people with different intentions, it's like that's probably what got me into Enochian. It's not that I necessarily have to. Oh, I certainly don't believe in the same sort of uh, theology as as John Dee and Edward Kelly did. I don't believe it, and I don't believe that you have to do the same prayers that they did to work with the Enochian
Yes,
material.
of course you don't have to, and the belief is not necessary because these are kind of forces that definitely can be contacted. And to finish off on the last card, is that I was saying it was stasis. Then I looked down and I saw that opening, and what I'm seeing is that it's not just stasis; it's already opening up there below, as though a flower, and the woman is falling out into the void, falling out into infinite possibility. So it's that which is maturing into that which has not yet materialized but can become anything. So yeah. Oh, and there's a cup. There's a cup on the. It seems like an important piece, and that shows that
Yeah.
there's.
Well, particularly, I've recently, well, it's a sign of priesthood in
Yeah.
this respect, obviously. Um,
To me,
and it's interesting. Well, you do have the magician card, so you have the male aspect of this card first. I guess is to organize everything that's there, and then the woman
wow.
does her thing.
As I said, she was, as though the flower is opening and she's falling through out into a new sort of existence and a new self. And she's closed her eyes. So that means for me, that would be the instruction: just relax, don't move, don't do anything, don't resist the changes, just relax and let yourself fall through whatever is happening. Just accept it and fall out of the old reality into whatever you're maturing and blooming out like a flower into like a new incarnation. So that would be what I would be would be. And there's most definitely death involved. So close your eyes, fall into the abyss,
Well,
die, and be
if
reborn.
you're still alive, that's okay. Well, then that would be that sort of. But if you're still alive, you got to have a new stage of life. Evidently,
Yes, a new
but
incarnation within the
remember
same life.
the
Yes.
sort of progress from the first numbered card to the second numbered card here is, you know, think of it in terms of like in the Islamic tradition, the men are it's whether or not it's safe for the women to go out and all that stuff. In my country, it's one of the least safe areas for women. I guess if you're in the middle of a bombing raid, it's different, but you know what I mean. It's South Africa and Asia have nothing on what goes on here domestically. But the whether or not they actually leave the homestead, the men come home and tell what they've learned to the women. So you got the magician all there laying all this stuff out. He's got the tools, and then he goes home and makes sure the wife says it. And of course, the wife tells the different layers and maybe figures out some extra meaning and stuff, and goes, tells the kid. It's like dad sits down with a book, and mother gets out the art stuff and sits down with the kids and tells the story her way, or maybe holds up toys.
Yeah, so the ability to get many different perspectives. For example, my own priestess, as I'm looking at it, she's kind of different. So this was like a dying stage and moving into a new cycle. My own priestess then is kind of coming afterwards. That means now you've been reborn, so shed the light. You were born anew, so shed the light and shed the power that you've accomplished and share it with the world. So there's an interesting kind of cycle in that. Like that was the first stage. This is the second.
Okay, so let's
Interestingly
perhaps move on to the and what I don't know what you keep on, ET phoning home me at.
Sorry, I'm checking I'm checking how much power is left if I need to plug it in again, so it doesn't.
Don't worry about it. We'll just move through quickly, and if and go back to whatever we have time with. So the Deccan card would be the three of pentacles there. So yeah, material works. I guess I'll hold that one up. So
yeah, very.
I received initiation. I mean, I didn't per se believe in the way that people would expect a person to believe in the group that I've. But anyways, I received an initiation during the time for this card, so I thought to give the initiator a gift pertaining to this card. I guess because I got fake. Three fake flowers in an arrangement, but yeah, that was a symbolic thing, and this was definitely my idea of what was going on there.
So if you can pull the card a bit back so I can see the whole. Oh yeah, thank you. So what I saw immediately after I kind of looked at it was, once again, it's an old world order of that which already was, but now it's past and now it's dead. So it even associated with me with communism and how that was already fallen and how that was already finished and over, and how the old order is falling down. Even looking at the edges of the card, looking at the black spaces here, I can see the sort of a crumbling of the whole image there into nothingness. And there's an interesting kind of association with communism with the cross on the back of the card, at least what I'm feeling. So it's very interesting. It's kind of subtle, and yeah, I did see a cross connecting these three other crosses in the middle of the card. So basically, it's pulling out three aspects of an order that's has already been, so that everything falls, and that really means the mind, the body, and the spirit. So it pertains to the self.
And of course,
and
since the cross keeps getting mentioned here, it's like, I mean, it's in all sorts of alchemical symbols and that sort of stuff, but it goes beyond any sort of Christian message, but it kind of does establish sort of a symbol of creed. And that's sort of the way out, because the material, again, is to some degree, it's transitory to whatever degree it's transitory. So therefore, when you put that spiritual consciousness to one's material works, you got something that's going to last as the whole rest of it crumbles away, because the forms are gone, but what you've done remains.
And another thing I saw about the cross once I started working with some spirits of the dead is that, and I would start to see sigils appear specifically with crosses, and then I realized that very clearly the cross was the death symbol most definitely. So there is the whole death cult aspect of Christianity there as well. Death worship. Veiled death worship. Yeah,
well, that was the difference between Christianity and your basic Mithraism. Your basic Mithraism was more of a life cult than it was a death cult. As much
Oh
as
yeah.
there was the sacrifice of the bull or the ram or whatever, there I guess in some age it could be even been a goat, but it goes beyond. It goes beyond that sort of way of it's that's part of life is the death to rise up
Oh
again.
yeah.
But as much as the resurrection was part of it, it's been hold up the cross. And so the Ace of Pentacles, obviously.
Oh, Ace of Pentacles, definitely. Immediately I see a breakthrough. So there's, let's say, a breakthrough in the darkness, a breakthrough in the existence, into once again a new stage of life. So we talked about the death, we talked about a crumbling down, and this is like a smaller rebirth of oneself. So it's a smaller cycle within one's life, not the grandiose reincarnation that we talked about last, but it's like one of the smaller new stages. And it's like, I just see this kind of wizard thrusting his wand in the face of reality, so that, okay, these are the steps I have to take, and I'm doing it. I am dominating myself, magically imposing myself upon the world and breaking through the limitations. And this is also what I'm
like
supposed to do.
and like if you know anything about the thousand stories of the tales of Muldoon, a little bit more spiritualized, is that okay? You got this theory, this spiritual theory, and you are out there operating the thing. You're making it fly, as indicated by the wings. But that's also a solar symbol. But which hence the darkness, going into the darkest, coming out of the darkness, out of the darkest, not darkness, darkest. It's you do got some of that element of that symbol as part of this quadrant card.
Yeah, and there's also a freedom that's shown right here in the fact that while darkness has many positive aspects, it can also be a bondage. So coming out and a breakthrough back again into life, and there's also once again the resurrection aspect. So, and there's a freeing yourself from the darkness
And
in
of
the card
course,
as well.
who sits in the throne of the ace except for the princess? And again, the princess of the Thoth tarot, again, that's like my favorite princess card is the in the Thoth tarot, the Princess of Earth, that really
Oh,
personifies.
this is a very interesting princess. Also, what I'm immediately picking up from her is that she is strong, she is powerful, her flesh is muscle bound, and she is in control of life. So she's balanced, but she's at the same time controlling the outer world as well with the tools that she possesses, and you can see the power emanating therefrom. And she's also protected, as you can judge, by the helmet, but at the same time the rest of her body is quite naked, so that means she is open to the world and
Well,
open to.
I think, of course, the thing with I don't actually think there's any symbolism necessary. I mean, people say that, but I don't think. I think there isn't a single card in the tarot where there has to be the nakedness. It's just something they do. It's you definitely have it all represented, because it's like it's all topless nudity, particularly. I mean, no one's mooning you. Oh, except some of the devil's cards. The devil ends up mooning you. In the Thoth tarot, the guy that's the devil on the devil card is he in the left testicle, or what was it? But the he's the one mooning you. The
So
guy
this type of nudity would,
the horn.
in
What?
my case, mean that she is protected, but at the same time she is open to whatever changes that come from the world, whether they be positive or generative or destructive towards herself, because she's not afraid. She's willing to meet.
Her creed there, her creed there in the right hand, is right there in the left hand to deal to be present through the conditions. So
Yeah.
the Thoth tarot, the woman changes her mind, the various conditions, that sort of thing, and but she's still there. She's still, but in this card, you have more of a steadfastness sort of thing going on.
Yeah.
And yeah, all the princess cards. Now this princess, of course, you would think more of the Aries. Oh well, I guess Aries. Yeah, they do have sort of the Aries thing going on. That was what I was going to say. But moving in different realms. Because you see those wings there. They're kind of indicating maybe they're not physical wings. And through her practice, she's like the people who have things in their auras that people can see. This is, she's establishing herself on another realm as well as physical.
Yes, and looking at her legs, I see that with all these attributes that we just discussed, it's kind of shown that she also is supposed to get out into the world with all the power and take it, dominate it, conquer it. So that would be, that would be it for sure, part of the message. I'm actually going to probably have to plug the phone in again before it dies, but
okay. Okay, we got day, month, season. I can't help but think there's well, I'm going to flip through. So but one of the things that's obvious here is we got we're dealing just like somebody visiting a psychologist's office, and they pick up those squigglings or whatever else they're having you look at to try to get out your thoughts and feelings and stuff. This is how it was done before those guys were around. Oh, that's what I was thinking of. I was thinking of that the Prince of Pentacles. Things kind of slid, so I don't have the card out. But the Prince of Pentacles, just like the princesses, but a little bit further along. You have are a little bit different, you could say. You definitely have. There's work to do. There's potential to do the work, but here you are. You're trained. You're carving your way in society. Where's the card? Because I want to get something specific on.
yeah.
Oh, that's why I lost it. Is because this guy's got, this guy's not so.
Oh, it's actually. Can you?
He's not as darkly colored as the rest because he has to stand.
Yeah, but he's backwards now. If you can flip, the card is back. Oh yeah. Thank you.
Oh yeah, because you're upside down too. So. Yeah.
It's the prince, right? Oh, looks
yeah,
very.
The Prince of Pentacles.
Remember
in the tarot card. The tarot card is sort of a Reiki sort of demon sort of character, dressed in green, pulling his cords and all this. But he's not like Robin Hood so much. He's like leading the company. Like his chariots.
This is interesting. What I am seeing is, I can see that he's definitely a part. He's like a mirror image of the princess. They're like, they have the same essence, but he's he's obviously the masculine and she's the feminine. But yes, she in this case is kind of the active force.
He's very much at the adult stage, as you see. That's why his color is separate, is because the child stage, it's not necessarily rebellion for its own sake, but definitely you got to bring something unique to the table.
uh, and so for me, he's kind of,
The
but
Arthur Knights, as it will.
though he's um, though he's masculine for me in this card, he's passive and he's kind of watching. So the princess is kind of the active force that is within himself, already making the changes of what he needs to become, and he kind of completes her. But when you look at the outward and the outer aspect, is that I'm seeing that he's watching the princess take over the world while he's maintaining the balance. He's remaining the sort of confidant, the sort of foundation for her,
I
to
mean,
which
what, I guess you would say that that if you're going to say yoga and tantra, sort of right hand path, left hand path, this guy is sort of the tantric, because he's you know, there's growth and stuff going on, but he's identifying with it instead of reaching out to it. Well, I mean, you are reaching out to it. Tantra is a very worshipful path, but you know what I mean.
you can see him working and embodying the aspects of the left-hand path and the right-hand path, the yin and the yang, in himself once again in peace in the center, because of the position of his hands and how that correlates back to Solve and Coagula, Baphomet, and so on. So, but he would be for me, he would not just be like, let's say, myself as far as what I need to do and become, but he would also be the spirits to which I, as the princess who is trying to conquer the world, always come back to in order to kind of figure out, hey, what's the next step, and so that would be the message, that he is both the unmoving that uses the active force, as well as he is the greater force that is kind of steering all this flat as far as ascent.
And so while we're here, let's let the last section of this be a little more open to my, I guess. But one's meant to fumble and try to figure things out. It's like psychologists write books, and they definitely they're trying to figure it out with you, so it's not all completely smooth. But this card, the back of this card reminds me. Well, I like my backs reversible. That's the problem with this deck. This is the problem with the Thoth Tarot, is you can tell right away which order the card is. But if you're honestly shuffling, it doesn't matter too much, because the card's going to be the card. Unless you're having people pick cards, and then they're going to be more likely to pick one side or the other. And maybe that will tell you something too, because the reversed versus the non-reversed are whether the image faces them or not. But tarot cards are a mercurial pantacle. They're a way of expressing the entire existence, the hood, the splendor. This is what a tarot deck is. It's an expression of all existence, but it's on the level of Mercury.
Yeah, if you can maybe just for a little bit just show that the back again, and I'll see what I can see. I saw some things. Yeah, so in this immediately I see that the rising sun. You got the rising sun. You got the triangle. So these both symbolize the fire aspect. Then the fire burns and it turns to hot air. The air rises to the cross, and we get a sort of interesting creation. So once again, an alchemy of the self, that would be like a resurrection, like a destruction of the self, turning into the kind of vapor, and really rematerializing and recollecting yourself into a new being as well. That would be and there is that aspect of apotheosis, of deification, because it's the cross, and it also symbolizes, you can say it symbolizes the Godhead, the Trinity. So that would
and
be
for those who are familiar in one way or another, I think this is when my posts on were some of the top results on Google, and definitely I was in the Enochian Yahoo group or something like that, where I interacted with some pretty Benjamin Rowe was still alive back then. I think he was in that group. Maybe it was another group, but anyways, it's not who I knew or that sort of things. It's what I personally understand and learn and all that. But I had a vision of Loe and that Ather. I flipped upside down and like formed a pyramid with my clothes, and there I was, the Red Cross, and the symbol of unity and all that other stuff. And I can't do the splits. I was doing the splits, and it was a Tau cross. It was a different sort of cross, but it was a cross nonetheless. And it, the areas of the experience were definitely mutually connecting, and let's do some sort of a jumbling or shuffling and try to get some random cards that aren't just the calendar cards, as we would say. And see, unlike some people, I'm not, I have shuffled the cards and I'm going to tell your future. And necessarily, well, the spirits must be telling me this about you. It's like, well, people should get in touch with their own spiritual side and learn what they have to say. So on those aspects, obviously, priestcraft in a proper way of using the term, and so, not a softer, not a Kahin. That's definitely, not what I'm claiming through this.
It would definitely be important to engage the clients as well as much as.
But definitely, as being a pantacle, you're representing everything. So anything in the universe that you're mentioning or including as categories or whatever in your worship, you don't have to make your way through a deck of cards. Or, well, I mean, there's several more in here, but you don't have to make your way through a deck of cards and worship every being you can possibly think of and that sort of stuff, and try to make your deck possessed and all that stuff. And
actually, I do that. I pick out.
Which is part of why it's smart to get a used deck, is because you get to move. You get to either exercise the deck, or you get a bunch of new playmates, whichever belief or whatnot you want to do with it.
Yeah. So I do get my decks possessed. Interestingly, I found this kind of.
So in the old way, beginning, middle, or end, which.
Oh yeah, let me get the. Let me get the. Can I do? Okay, let me get the left for sure. The left, because hopefully that's gonna be something
here.
darker.
So.
All right.
Very nice card to appear in the rolling.
Yeah. Now, how do I? Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay. So there it is.
The devil is really the card of the start of the next season, as it would be. I like to think of the seasons in terms of lights. The old-fashioned way. The Celts had winter starting in November, but it's starting in February. It's got this guy. February's got this guy. So that's starting the warming quarter.
Well, this is okay. So
you see, it's the devil, right?
Yeah. What I'm seeing is kind of, this looks to me like it's a kind of dream world. Of course, there's joy, there's revelry. I mean, a world that we get into as we dream, and there's joy, there's revelry. But at the same time, the transience is shown, and the devil is kind of saying, yes, all things pass, all things that, in the lower worlds are transient, and they will expire. So enjoy it with the most fire while you can, and you have that burning, of course, those burning genitals. So live the most intensely, for sure, is the message of this.
Oh yeah, I forgot about his burning genitals.
Is the message of this card, and at the same time,
the
devil.
Well, I mean, that's that's why I just don't don't play around. It's I mean, it's you just don't be a jerk, and he won't have to. But everybody has herpes. Don't worry about it. It's like no. I'm more careful with my decisions than that. Thank you. the
or the devil.
But as a pass card, think of it. You got the we were trapped. We were trapped, but it was our own choice to be trapped. Our ignorance and evil, as it would be said, that we laid upon ourselves. It's a twist on something, but all we have to do is twist back that thing and break ourselves free. But there's the devil there to ask us, hey, you want those chains on you again? Let those chains be on you again. It's like, oh, I could party with the devil, But or maybe you say, wait a second, I know what it was like to be chained down.
Yeah. So to really put this into context,
but look at the interesting thing. You notice something? You notice something about the card? Yahweh. The W's down. Think about it. The guy's hand, and you got the two guys shouting for joy, and the peg in the middle, it's nailed down. So it's like writing out Yahweh. God is a noun and a verb, increasing existence, however you want to define that. I mean, I've said this before.
I didn't notice that, but
so see, so it's operating on the same field as you would say Yahweh. That's why you're talking about the Demiurge, is because the Demiurge is not a creator. In the Greek meaning of the word Demiurge, people form these doctrines, but honestly, Demiurge isn't the creator. Demiurge acts as a creator. It says it's the creator. It's operating with the same stuff. It's operating on the stuff that is created, and it's acting like it's the master. So, the master of the material realm, as people would call it. And this is the Demiurge card.
And several other things I'm seeing is, he is, although, as I've said, it shows kind of a dream world and a transience and sort of, how things end fast. But he is on a platform, and that kind of, to me, shows that he is the exalted being. That he is the Lord, most definitely, of his world. He's the big boss man, and that's one of those we can aspire to. And another is the fact that his body and his head, and of course reaching the stars. So it basically the earth, the air, and the sky, and basically the whole three worlds are in his grasp at the same time as well. So he would also represent the macro cosmos, or the what else was it? There was one that
So we're continuing with the left here. So let's. I didn't hear. I don't remember whether or not you referred to the past through that. So we're just doing past, present, future, I guess, is the context of what we're trying to think about here.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you'd like to say something about that card in terms of, you don't have to get too personal or something if you don't want to or anything, but
in as regards to the past, right? So okay, let me check it out.
What's left behind here?
Interestingly, as far as the past, you have, if you look at the star, I'm seeing, reminds me of Abaddon, reminds me of the star that opens the bottomless pit, reminds me also of the fall of demons, which is in a past tense for sure. That has already occurred.
And that's if you're familiar with my phrase becoming, it's like, they were of a different creation from the start, but they were perfect until they decided to, I want a separate identity. That's what Diabolus is it wanted the identity separate from God. And it sort of operates or tries to operate like, the Demiurge tries to operate like there isn't a God out there except him and his buddies,
So it really does depict kind of the past grace, their grace in heaven would be depicted by the star, and then the star and themselves falling. But then, yes, so that was their past, but they did make an empire in this world, and that's something that we can take as a motivation for ourselves that we can accomplish as well. Definitely.
Okay, let's pick something from
regarding the past.
Middle. And so, I mean, there's plenty of examples of some oppression going on with the Mr. Ten of Wands here.
Well, that's interesting because of course the
But
hands.
of course, yeah, that the hands don't make me think oppression. I'm thinking other stuff when we see all this, or at least we're seeing what can happen despite oppression.
Actually, to me, they're associated with with undead, with particular the green and all that kind of associates with zombies. And what happens is, undead breaking down once again, rising up and breaking down the world. So basically, breaking down that which is, so that, let's say, the message is that there is an influx of that are chaotic in nature, that are destructive, that want to make changes, and that don't care if somebody gets hurt or whatever. So,
or you can think of the colors. You can think of the colors as the yellows like a beginning, the red's like a destruction, and the green's like a growth in the middle of the thing. But
so that
this guy, I mean, it's the same type of hand, but really the way it looks is kind of like, I mean, you don't have to call on the dead and that sort of thing. That there's energy, there's memories and stuff you can work with, and so the dead and the magical connection is, see, there's the fellowship, but it's not necessarily a fellowship because he's worshiping the dead, but there's a fellowship between the living and the dead there.
Yes, there's a connection of the hands, of course.
He has a double, two sets of wands, and then there's the interaction of the other wands.
Yeah. So that would be, to me, yes, there is a fellowship of the hands, so that there's definitely fellowship in the card. And the spirits breaking down, barriers breaking down, flooding into this world. The veil is thinning. And
it's like one that I have definitely said in at least one of my graveyard videos is that, I mean, aside from asking for the proper legacies to continue on, that sort of thing, I'm not praying for justifying people who've made mistakes and trying to intercede for people who don't deserve to be interceded for. That's not what I'm doing. There's memories there, there's energies there, and there's there's connections formed at that place, and you're working with that thing.
And the bottom hand
on their side, they definitely want to favor that. It's like, hey, here's some dude out here and trampling around out here. We don't get too many visitors, so that's nice. But here's some out here that's trying to identify with the good stuff. I mean, what's good for me? He's trying to identify with what's good for me and maybe try to pass on the memory. Maybe someone will look up, this name's been mentioned. What's the story of this?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, in my experience, the dead completely want to live. They don't want to be left alone. They want to be worked with and remembered and all that, and they want to act through us and this. So, and the last hand would be that there is that the spirits who are invading and who are tearing things down and changing reality, at the same time they are in control. They are holding, they are holding the sticks, or you could say the
oh yeah. Just because beings out there decide to interact with us doesn't mean that that all of a sudden things have switched and somehow we're their god now, and that sort of thing. It's
yeah, they're still in control.
They're always working according to their thing. And a final one. Okay, well, I'm not going to get too much in this, but look at China and
tower,
Russia.
Yeah.
What?
All right, so
some people will look at this card as a future card right now. It's like China and Russia are getting left alone, and they're sending Mr. Crescent over there to kick a Christian majority's country's butt there and knock them all out. But
it would be a future kind of aspect, like for me as well. And there's like the complete falling of the tower, the complete destruction of the self and the outside of the world that is yet and it has not yet been destroyed. It's still there, so it will happen. It will happen in the future for sure. And but this important, as I look at this arrow and with the bubble and all that,
Well,
I
as
see
much as it
that not
reminds of a
only.
building project, as much as it reminds of a building project where something was there before, you demolish and you build up and that sort of thing. Uh, look at who the victor is. The victor kind of reminds you of both the vitality and force of change, but it reminds you of what's good for nature. And back in the middle, the church, the cross and um,
Yeah, for me.
it reminds you of the fact that always that whether it's the Grail stories or whatnot, there was this enemy personified in terms of the nature religions, and Islam, of course, was considered one of those nature religions because rather than Christianity taking off the natural man, humans were on the right nature to begin with, and that's what we want to bring back and restore. That's what Islam teaches, Surah 830, and other places. So Christianity lumped Islam in with those other religions, and so putting back on the natural man, I guess, is what and he's wrapped up with the green rising up, and the void has teeth, so the remembrance of the void, and maybe Cthulhu and that sort of stuff too. Of course, sort of
Yeah,
sort
that
of principle
definitely something that can be, and
And by the way, that's one of my political projects for the coming year. Is that one in 1442? If I'm alive, I'm going to do another Egyptian political, and probably is it Basset or who's the jokester of the politics? So I forget the name at the moment, but I'm going to get into that in terms of Egyptian politics. But Cthulhu, I got to do politics has gotten so bad that it's about time to bring up Cthulhu.
it's yeah,
20, no more years. So rising from the deep, But anyways, we don't have. I'm not saying that. That things are necessarily all going to be destroyed and civilizations all going to go down just yet. But
well,
I'm not.
This is an interesting discussion.
It seems a significant possibility, doesn't it?
Yeah. As I was looking at the card, I look at this bubble with the arrow, and I was seeing that it's like a weapon, of course, but in the bubble there's also God who's saying, okay, now bring it all down. So I mean God, I mean the kind of Yahweh and so forth, like God. But at the same time, it's acting through the magician. So of course we are bringing
the light worker. The light worker there's not just that's the thing. We're means. We're all means for something. Whatever side spiritually we're going to take, we're means for things, and and good and evil. It's not about negative and positive and destructive and it's not that simple. And this card reminds you of that. Is that the light, because you see how it's surrounded by light. That symbol there is it's striking down and what's became dark, and the fire is a transformation. Of course, the consummation is happening with other, but you see green fire. You got green fire in there, so the destruction is a productive thing. Maybe it's even good for the environment. But you see those those falling out. Falling out of the window is that old priestcraft and statecraft keeping us down. It's like. I'm listening to these Bhagavad Gita as it is lectures. I don't agree with everything cosmologically or theologically that these or otherwise theologically that these people that is being said here. But I'm trying to fish out and put things in terms that are agreeable to myself, obviously. But the professional priesthood of the church in particular is worried that if people have, this is his point. The Brahmin caste in India that are only Brahmins because they were born in that position, they are worried that people who chant for themselves, people who have acquired a chant, people who can pick up a book of scripture and read it for themselves, or whatever, and make their own conclusions. They're worried that their money for being a professional ritual performer, of being a church leader, of being a temple leader, whatnot, their salary for being a professional religious ritualist, they're worried that's going to go away, that their power is going to go away.
Yeah, and it is essentially going away for sure. Yeah,
it's going to empower society, as we've seen.
We are taking back for sure the power.
The multiple, Mr. Priestcraft and Mr. Statecraft fall out the window, but instead of survivals, you can see in terms of these points is that here's the different aspect. Here's the whole society that has risen because of these, couple minorities falling out. Now, okay, people say minorities going to try to flag me for hate speech. He's racist. It's like, listen to the context. Thank you very much, YouTube audience. Now, definitely ascendancy. Operate your power, operate your wealth. It's. I'm not saying these things are bad. I'm saying these things have been misused for too long, and there's got to be change one way or another.
Well, yes, that's the glorious thing about it, is the fact that as we acquire power and more power, judges, of our own selves, but at the same time, we can become the judges of anyone else we want. So yeah, in the end, power is being taken back, but at the same time, it is power that will begin to decide everything. So there is a sort of new aeon for sure, wherein not only is
people talking too much, talk not over, convert not, talk not over much. I don't remember the exact quote, but you know what I'm talking about. The Book of the Law, Liber Alvel Legis, chapter 3. There's an OTO lodge in Portland, Oregon, that is renting out space in a Lutheran church. I thought I would never hear of a church renting out space to a Telemic lodge, but it's happening.
Yeah,
well,
there's definitely.
Church is falling away financially, and I guess they're making compromises that they would have never made.
Yes.
That third chapter of the Book of the Law, Christianity in particular, how a church could ever rent space to that group, I have, it boggles the mind, unless they're hurting for money. That's why they gamble in the church, in so many churches, is because obviously usury and gambling and a lot of stuff has nothing but opposition in the Bible, cheating mentality. But don't worry, we've there's plenty of churches where you can go to that says to profit off the fears of others if you can, to make money off of people that feel like they need money, so charge them money and interest. So, and don't help them out. No. They don't have the money because they're not favored by God, but you are. So, this is the sort of stuff that some churches are teaching, and that's again part of why it needs to fall down. But I'm not saying that.
And it is definitely falling down. In the end,
when you raise the black flag, it's not necessarily that you're trying to convert everybody or something. But you're a vehicle of change, and your influence, not that you're yelling at people on a street corner with a bullhorn, but your influence is, just take an active role in changing yourself and outside you. And the more of us that do it,
Yeah, and the collective changes definitely.
But we are it's obvious that we are both rather tired. So I am going to, if you have any further thoughts, obviously I'm typing. You're well aware I'm typing in your name, so they can at least look you up that way. So it would be closing thoughts in this symbolic discussion that we've had. I didn't ask. Share your thoughts, but I didn't ask you per se. If you're familiar with devil's dung, hing, asafoetida, this like sulfuric plant that kind of has an oniony, garlicky sort of taste to it, but really smells. It really has a strong smell before it's cooked.
I'm not really familiar, but I just read about it in Baneful Magic. I know there's a spell that uses Asafoetida.
And it's and the other one, I guess, the other candle thing I had out here, I did have the symbols that I was going to use. I had chant. I'm not sure if the person was going to let me, but I wanted to be ready to mention what was going to need to be mentioned and see if mentioning it causes some reaction out of them and kind of forms a completion to confirm what's been talked about. But almond biscotti is the smell of this. Biscotti is that what? It's like this biscuit. It's like this biscuit thing. I don't remember exactly, but it's like usually like a dip. But it's often presented as a dip. But I guess the biscotti is sometimes just by itself. But so what would you think that either aspects of that would mean?
Aspects of these materials?
Well, yeah. What sort of symbolism might you associate with that?
Yeah, let me see them on the screen. I'll just check them out easier that way. And if you can,
almonds that little it's closer to a light sort of color, sort of fawn, but then it's like more of a wrinkly sort of raisin looking of a nut. Well, that's sort of a poor description, but I think people know what an almond is, but
well, I mean, for me, as far as thinking about plants, thinking about plants as a whole, that would be the fact that most definitely remember that we are actually a part of plant life. As I once read, that we do have there's the view that we do have a sort of plant body in ourselves that's a part of us, that since we were a part of nature, not really like animals. So there is I would believe there is an aspect of ourselves as plants, and that we should open ourselves to that aspect and take whatever plant materials that we can into ourselves, so as to also use that to perfect the organism, so that to perfect our body. I mean, yeah.
So Mr. Green Dragon, signing off here, but so let's close the 9 vibrations of Deivyspro in Lzwvmmh.
Yeah, that would be. Let me just fix you right there. That would be Davis, and if you want to say it like that, then it would be Deivyspro, is the way that we intended it. But yeah, but calling me Davis is best, because Davis actually means God. It comes from the word God, so it's a very magical name on its own. So I love it. Yeah, so Davis would.
Okay, be. Well, okay, yeah. The EI, you never know. I never know whether, depending on the context and the linguistic right where one is. That could be E. That could be I. That could be. So I don't mean to mispronounce anybody's name here. So according to one's own intentions and that sort of thing, is we say goodbye to Lzwvmmh.
It's interesting that these vibrations